This audio slideshow will explore how the cultural world is primarily about the control, order and use of place, with particular reference to nature and the emotional encounters experienced with it. The focus of nature here will specifically be the area around Pontypridd, where I grew up. Questions persist as to what exactly nature is. Different cultures view it in different ways. To think of nature outside of culture has become doxa in the Western world. This orthodox view of nature often views it as a place where human culture is absent. We may think of nature as a landscape that is yet to be tainted by human cultural dirt or pollution. Our views on nature are obtained or made by the cultural context in which we have been brought up and live in. Our views on nature influence how we take and make its places. Some groups may seek to protect nature, some to control it, and some to exploit it. Maskett outlines this perspective of nature as separate from culture. Nature must have a certain purity to it. It often must have a certain remoteness to it. It should show no or few visible signs of civilization. Roads, houses, power lines and the like are all things that make a place less wild. Well, what is nature to me? South Wales is a place full of greenery, fields and forests. When I think of nature, memories from my childhood come to mind of being in these places, being amongst the trees and fields, the wildlife. I still enjoy being in this environment. For me, it is the sense of getting away from it all, especially from the city life of Cardiff. Llantrisant Common and Pastures is a site of special scientific interest, located around 12 miles from Cardiff, less than a couple of hundred yards away from my parents' house. It is a place I am still very much drawn to. I always seem to gain a sense of well-being from spending time there. According to the Rhondda Cynon Taf Council website, the countryside is extensive, covering about 80% of the county borough. Much of this is accessible particularly since the Rights of Way Act 2000. Gessler introduced the term therapeutic landscapes in his book The Cultural Geography of Healthcare. Since then, a number of studies and publications have explored the way in which place can become implicated in processes of health enhancement. Conradson outlines this perspective. For many people in the Western world, spending time in scenic natural surroundings is a valued counterpoint to the demands of work and home life. Whether undertaking a particular activity or simply being present in a less directed fashion, these environmental encounters are in part appreciated for their capacity to move us to think and feel differently. In coming close to other ecologies and rhythms of life, we may obtain distance from everyday routines, whilst perhaps also experiencing renewed energy and finding different perspectives upon our circumstances. Castry states, the moral and aesthetic connotations of wilderness help support a multi-million-dollar eco-tourist industry. This industry is based on the desire of usually urban dwellers to experience real nature as they hike, camp, climb, ski or kayak in wilderness areas. Castry and Braun comment that there has been the assumption that the natural and the social are two different domains, related but distinct. However, this has all changed with an explosion of geographical research that seeks to denaturalize nature and challenge previous understandings of it. They go on to argue that this move towards social nature has allowed geographers to move away from asking worthy, if limited, questions about what society does to nature and vice versa, towards more fundamental questions such as who constructs what kinds of nature, to what ends and with what social and ecological effects. Many cultures do not share the westernized idea of culture as separate from nature. Wilson argues that nature is a part of culture. He believes it is important to pay close attention when our physical surroundings are sold to us as natural. Whatmore believes the idea of a pristine space outside society is an historical fallacy. Castry comments, several contemporary geographers have denaturalized nature. They may argue that those things that seem to be natural are, in fact, social through and through. Even in places of apparent nature, conflicts over the use of space can arise. These spaces are contested, an example being when my grandfather recently got into an argument whilst walking his dogs near the village of Ystrad, approximately 5 miles from Llantrisant. He explained, well, it started because the dogs jumped into the lake for a swim near where they were fishing, and they reckoned that the dogs scared all the fish off, you know. They said to me, oh, get your bastard dogs out of here, man. Well, why should I? The dogs like to cool down, see? Apart from highlighting the nature of my grandfather, this passage raises some interesting questions. Who should have the right to decide how this lake is used? Who holds the power to make these decisions? Whose ideas should gain the upper hand? Who is at fault, and was my grandfather's behaviour a form of transgression? Whilst admittedly this is